All right, let's talk about something that so many students run into. You're looking for a coaching center, right? But everything, it all just looks the same. So how do you find one that's actually truly different? Well, today, we're going to deconstruct the claims of one specific institute, Mafec, and see what they say makes them stand out from the crowd.
Okay, so picture this. You're set on becoming a lawyer. You know the competition is just insane, and getting into a top law school is the first huge step. So what do? You do what we all do. You head straight to the internet to find some help, a coaching center that can give you an edge. And what happens? Bam, you're hit with just an avalanche of options, hundreds of them, all promising you the moon. It's totally overwhelming, right? Trying to sift through all that noise to find the one that's actually different, the one that's a perfect fit for you, it feels like a full-time job. And that's where we're going to focus today. Let's look at one specific contender, the Maulana Azad Free Education Center, or Mafec for short. You know, in their own promo stuff, they basically ask the exact question we're asking. In this huge sea of sameness, what makes us different? So, let's dig in and see what they have to say. Okay, so their first big point is all about who's running the show. They draw a really clear line in the sand here. They're basically saying, hey, look, a lot of other places might be run by students, but at Mafec, their claim is that it's run by people who are currently in the legal world. We're talking practicing advocates and litigators. The whole idea is that you're getting knowledge straight from the source, from people in the trenches right now. And they're not shy about it either. I mean, this is a direct quote. They say they're the only institute run this way. That's not just a small detail, that's their main hook. It's a pretty bold statement, right? They're really trying to drive home that they've got this deep, practical connection to the legal field that no one else does. So this whole real-world experience thing doesn't just stop at the top. It flows right down to their next big claim, which is all about the teachers, the faculty, and how they're organized. What they're describing here is more than just hiring smart people. It's a whole system. They say they've got expert teachers who specialize in various specific subjects. And get this, they have separate departments for different tasks. So why do all this? Well, the goal they state is to make sure teachers aren't stretched too thin, so they can actually give individual focused attention to every single student. Makes sense. All right, so that's their setup. That's who they are and how they teach. But here's the million-dollar question. Does it actually work? Let's look at the numbers they use to prove it. First things first, let's talk about size. They say a typical batch at Mafec has somewhere between 80 and 100 students. So that gives you a ballpark of how many people are in a class. Okay, so out of that group of 80 to 100 students, here's the number they claim gets selected into law programs, 50 to 60. Yeah, 50 to 60 of them. And when you put those two numbers side by side like this, the picture becomes really clear. Taking the averages, what they're essentially claiming is a success rate of well over 50%. That's the big takeaway from their data. So we've covered the who, the experienced lawyers, and the what, the results. Now let's get into the how. What are the actual tools and methods they're giving students to get those results?
They lay out their process as a pretty clear step-by-step system. You start with lectures, and you've got options, live or recorded, which is nice and flexible. Then to make sure you're actually absorbing it, there are daily quizzes. And finally, you've got the weekly mock tests to really put you under exam-like pressure. It's all about building your knowledge and then testing it over and over.
Okay, but what's the end goal of all this? Where is this whole system, the experienced faculty, the step-by-step prep, supposed to get you? Well, the targets are very specific, and they're big names. The whole program is laser-focused on helping you crack the entrance exams for 3 top universities: Jamia Millia Islamia, Aligarh Muslim University, and Delhi University. That's the finish line they're promising to help you cross. And to wrap it all up, they end with a pretty direct call to action. They don't just call it a program, they frame it as an opportunity, a chance for you to grab your spot and make those university dreams a reality. Which, brings us to the final and most important question. And this one is really for you to think about. After breaking down all their claims, from being run by practicing lawyers to that high success rate, is this the kind of difference that you've been looking for? Hopefully, walking through their pitch has given you a little more clarity. Thanks for joining me on this one.